really frustrating for the aging population. All right, part of the large intestine, you can see what we're looking at here is the cecum. So here's the ileum of the small intestine draining into the cecum of the large intestine. And protruding off of the cecum, you have this little worm-shaped structure. This is called the vermiform appendix. Okay, very small tubular organ that's going to drain into the cecum. Honestly, people aren't certain why it's there, what the true function of it is. It's thought to be a breeding ground for healthy bacteria. So in animals like koala bears and um, lots of herbivore animals that eat only plant matter, it's interesting, the cecum and appendix are much longer and larger in those animals because what you find in the cecum and in the appendix are these bacteria that help to break down plant matter. So carnivores like wolves and humans have a lot smaller cecums and appendix, probably because they're not eating as much plant matter and don't need that additional reservoir of that bacteria that helps to break down that plant matter. Okay, so here's an image of the peritoneum. We've talked about this before. It's a serous membrane that's holding onto these organs, okay, and keeping them in place and preventing too much friction. You know, the parietal layer is going to line the walls of the abdominal cavity, and the visceral layer is going to form the outer coat of these organs. There's some extensions of the peritoneum that I want you to be aware of. First is the mesenteries, okay? So remember how we said that your small intestine is 20 feet long. It's pretty long. And in some of the movies that you may or may not have seen, you know, there's a sword fight and someone gets slashed open on your abdomen and the intestines just go spilling out into the dirt. That would never happen because of these mesenteries, okay? Even though your small intestine is plenty long to reach the floor if you did cut it open, it doesn't because of these extensions of the visceral pleura or peritoneum. So this visceral serous membrane, remember, lines the outer portion of these organs, but it extends into these sheets. And basically, these mesenteries are fan-shaped structures that hold your intestines into tightly coiled, orderly, organized systems. Okay. Your greater omentum is an extension of your peritoneum that extends off of your stomach. So you can see here, here's your stomach, and here's an extension of that visceral peritoneum. You can see how it just drops down the front here. Okay. It's basically just a fatty apron. It stores a lot of adipose tissue and serves as kind of a light protection padding to the anterior portion of your organs. The lesser omentum is this extension of the visceral peritoneum that extends from the base of your liver to your stomach. Okay, so superiorly on your stomach you have the lesser omentum connecting the stomach to the liver, and inferiorly you have the greater omentum dropping off of the front of the stomach and covering the small intestines and transverse colon. Okay, let's talk about the liver. Not only is the liver the largest organ inside your body, but it is the largest gland in your body. Secretes important enzymes and things, and we'll talk more about the function in just a second. It's located in the right upper quadrant of your abdomen. So if you cut your abdomen into quarters, it's up on the right. And it has two lobes, okay? Obviously, the larger of the two is the right lobe, and the smaller of the two is the left lobe. Left lobe is about 1/6 of the liver. And there's a ligament separating the two lobes called the falciform ligament, okay? So again, this ligament separating the two lobes is called the falciform ligament. The liver is divided into tiny structures called hepatic lobules, okay? These hepatic lobules filter blood and secrete a substance called bile. Anytime you hear the word hepatic, think liver. So the bile ducts from each hepatic lobule merge to form two main hepatic ducts. Okay, so you can see these microscopic hepatic lobules are going to all drain into hepatic ducts, which merge to form basically these two hepatic ducts, okay, one from each lobe. So you have a right hepatic duct coming from the right lobe and a left hepatic duct coming from the left lobe. And these merge to form this common hepatic duct right here. So left and right hepatic ducts merge to form a common hepatic duct here. So some of the functions of the liver are to detoxify substances. So toxic substances like alcohol and other drugs travel through your bloodstream and basically just slam into your liver. And your liver absorbs those and tries to handle them as best they can. It assists in metabolism. Remember, metabolism is the chemical reactions that break your food down and build new substances from that food. It's going to store iron and other vitamins, produce critical proteins for the blood, and when during fetal development in the womb, this is where blood cells are actually produced. Remember, as an adult and as a child, hematopoiesis occurs in the red bone marrow, but as a fetus, that occurs in the liver. And this is where bile is produced, okay? And bile is very important for our digestion of fats, okay? So bile is produced by the liver, and it's going to aid in the absorption and chemical or mechanical digestion of fats. Okay, so here's a big fat globule. So when you're eating French fries, this is kind of what's floating through your digestive tract. And a bile salt has a hydrophobic side and a hydrophilic side, kind of like a fatty acid chain, or kind of like a phospholipid. Remember that they form that bilayer. And what it does is it basically emulsifies these or separates out these little particles of fat and makes it easier for your body to absorb these fats so that they can digest them better or use them for the different chemical processes in your body. Okay, here's the gallbladder. It's kind of a green organ found just inferior to the liver on the underside of the right lobe. It's only about 3 to 4 inches long, and it stores and concentrates the bile that your liver produces. Okay? And it's going to eject that stored bile into what's called the cystic duct. So here is your gallbladder, and it puts bile into this cystic duct. And remember, we discussed the liver's hepatic duct. Okay, so you have a right hepatic duct and a left hepatic duct that drain into the common hepatic duct. You have bile that drains from the gallbladder that drains into the cystic duct, and they're going to merge here to form a structure we'll discuss in a second. First, we're going to talk about the pancreas. Okay, your pancreas looks almost like a gray-pink chicken breast. It has both exocrine and endocrine functions. So exocrines are glands that are going to be secreted to the outside of your body. Remember how we talked about how the digestive tract is technically outside the body. So exocrine substances are going to be secreted into your digestive tract. Endocrine substances are going to be secreted into your bloodstream. So your exocrine tissue of the pancreas secretes pancreatic juice, which we'll talk about when we get to digestion, and this is going to be secreted into the duodenum of the small intestine. The endocrine tissues secrete these hormones into the bloodstream. Okay. So your exocrine, or the part that makes it into your duodenum, is called the pancreatic juice, and it's going to have some different enzymes that we'll talk about later. The endocrine secretions go into your blood. You probably have heard of insulin before. This is decreasing the amount of glucose in your blood. So remember, your body has to hold it in a range of about 80 to 100 milligrams per deciliter of glucose in your blood. So this is promoting the movement of glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids out of the blood and into the tissues like your liver. Glucagon basically increases the amount of blood glucose. So this is stimulating the liver to release glucose that it's storing and put it into the blood. All right, so let's talk more about these ducts. So you have the right and left hepatic ducts from your left and right lobes of your liver that merge to form the common hepatic duct. You also have the cystic duct coming from the gallbladder. These two ducts, the cystic duct and the common bile duct, merge to form the common bile duct. Okay, so this is the common bile duct, and the common bile duct merges with the pancreatic duct, and they basically empty into the duodenum at the same place. And this point where both the pancreatic duct and the common bile duct drain into the duodenum is called the major duodenal papillae. Okay, I'd be familiar with that term. Okay, let's talk about digestion. Okay, after you ingest food into your mouth, digestion starts to take place. And there's two different kinds of digestion, mechanical and chemical. Mechanical digestion is basically breaking food into smaller pieces. So we've talked about mastication. You have your temporalis muscle and your masseter that aid in mastication, and that's chewing. So you're breaking large pieces of food into smaller pieces and forming a bolus. Some of your classmates discussed deglutition, which is swallowing. Swallowing is a form of mechanical digestion. And finally, we get to talk about these two processes that we've mentioned before, peristalsis and segmentation. Okay. Peristalsis is like a wave-like ripple, and it's almost like squeezing toothpaste through the tube from the bottom to the top. Okay. Segmentation is basically like massaging the contents of your GI tract. Okay. Here's an image of peristalsis. So it's kind of a wave-like, rhythmic-like contraction that pushes the bolus down this way. Segmentation is like a churning, massaging the food inside your GI tract. In your stomach, you also have peristalsis and segmentation. Foods a bolus enters the stomach and it's churned with the gastric juices and it forms chyme, kind of that mixture of food and gastric juices. And eventually that's going to be forced through the pyloric sphincter by peristalsis. You'll also find peristalsis and segmentation throughout the small and large intestines. Chemical digestion occurs at a molecular level. Okay, so chemical digestion is going to occur along the entire length of the GI tract. So digestive enzymes cause hydrolysis of the ingested substances. Remember that hydrolysis is basically adding a water molecule across these bonds to break them apart. Hydro meaning water, lysis meaning breaking apart. So a water molecule reacts with this bond to separate these individual molecules. So enzymes are those protein catalysts that are going to help in breaking these substances down into simpler substances. So carbohydrates. Remember, long chains of carbohydrates are polysaccharides. So the chain is called a polysaccharide. The links are called monosaccharides. And we have a couple of enzymes that are helping us do this. Enzymes that are breaking down these sugars or starches are called amylases. And you have salivary amylase that are secreted by your salivary glands, and you have pancreatic amylases that are secreted by the pancreas. Okay, so carbohydrate digestion occurs in the mouth. Okay, so as soon as that bread touches your tongue, these salivary amylases are already breaking it down into monosaccharides, and that continues down into the small intestine. Okay, you also have protein polypeptides or long chain proteins. And so a peptide is a chain of amino acids. So a peptide is the chain, amino acids are the chain links, and proteases are the enzymes that are going to hydrolyze polypeptides and form amino acids. We're going to talk about four main proteases. Pepsin is found in gastric juices. Okay. Trypsin and chymotrypsin is secreted by the pancreas, and peptidases are secreted in the intestine. Okay, so pepsin is found in the stomach or gastric juice. Trypsin and chymotrypsin are secreted by the pancreas, and peptidases are present in the intestine. Chemical digestion of proteins does not begin until the stomach, and it ends in the small intestine. Okay. Fat digestion. Remember that fats are insoluble in water, so they do not enter your bloodstream without first being emulsified. Okay, so remember the bile. You have a hydrophobic region that's going to associate with the fats, and you have a hydrophilic region that's going to associate with the water in your blood. So you have this large fat globule that is being emulsified by bile salts, and then it can be absorbed by the small intestine and enter your blood. Emulsification is a mechanical digestion. So this is not chemical digestion. Chemical digestion is done by substances called lipases. So lipases are enzymes that help break these triglycerides and other fat molecules down into fatty acids and glycerol molecules. And this fat digestion only occurs in the small intestine. Let's talk a little bit about absorption. We're talking about passing substances like food, water, salt, vitamins through that innermost in a layer of the intestine called the mucosa. And these substances have to make it into the blood or the lymphatic system. Most absorption occurs in the small intestine, and you can see these large villi that are extensions of that mucosal layer of your GI tract. These large protrusions are called villi. Off of the villi, you also have these smaller projections called microvilli. And basically what this does is it increases the surface area for absorption, so you can get a lot of absorption in a very small area. And the combination of these structures, the villi and microvilli, is called a brush border. Each villi contains a lymphatic vessel. Okay, and excuse me, later in the semester you'll learn about the lymphatic system, and eventually the lymphatic system is going to drain into your arterial or venous system. They each also have a blood capillary, so as as things are absorbed from the lumen of your intestine into these cells, you are going to see some substances enter the blood and substances enter the lymphatic system. These lymphatic capillaries that are found inside the villi are called lacteals. Okay? And lacteals are mainly absorbing the fat that is digested in your digestive system. Okay, so absorbed amino acids and monosaccharides are going to enter the bloodstream, and they're going to travel through the hepatic portal system. I want you guys to remember this hepatic portal system because we're going to talk about it again in the cardiovascular system, and I think it's important for you guys to understand that first, that this hepatic portal system is taking nutrients from the digestive tract first to the liver, where the nutrients are stored, and then to the venous system. Okay, so take a little time to look at this picture and try and wrap your head around that hepatic portal system before we talk about the cardiovascular system on July 6th. Okay, elimination. Know this vocabulary word. Elimination is the process by which we expel feces or the remnants of our digestion out of our digestive tract. Okay, so defecation is the act of expelling. So elimination and defecation are kind of interchangeable. So constipation is a condition that occurs when your lower colon and rectum are moving slower than usual. So they're not working the products of your digestion through the last part of your digestive tract as quickly as should be the case. Diarrhea is when your small intestine is moving things through it too fast, and so this does not allow water to be absorbed out of your small intestine. And as a result, your colon can't absorb all the water, so you end up having watery stools. Okay, so that is the end of our discussion about digestion. I'm going to go ahead and not talk about blood typing now. So just worry about digestion for this lecture. Make sure you study hard for your quiz that will happen on July 6th when you come to class. Okay, and if you have any questions, email me and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good rest of your day.